Hello and welcome to this Professional Services Town Hall. I'm Jonathan Morgan, Chief Governance Officer. It's great to have so many of you on the call because today we're launching our Professional Services Transformation Programme. If you joined any of our recent Town Hall events, you'll know that they were largely Q&A sessions involving the whole of the Professional Services leadership team. For this event, we're taking a different approach by focusing on the transformation programme and using some of the time to set the scene, share information and introduce some key people involved in leading on this work. There's still the opportunity for you to ask questions and give feedback through the chat function and on our intranet pages. So please get involved by posting your comments and questions as we get into the presentations. As part of the Professional Services Transformation Programme, there will be further town hall events, as well as regular opportunities to engage on a one-to-one basis with the work we're doing to support the delivery of Strategy 2030. In a moment, I'll hand over to Sharon Ellis, who, in addition to her substantive role, is also our Director of Professional Services Transformation. But first, I'm going to give a quick reminder about the wider university strategy and how the transformation programme fits in it. So you'll see here on the slide, we've got a diagram that encompasses the whole of the university's strategy. On the top line, we have the three main pillars around education and student experience, people, culture and inclusion, and research and innovation. And you'll see underneath those the main KPIs listed in each of the boxes. Moving to the second row, and I hasten to add this isn't a hierarchical list, this is just an easy way of presenting it. We have the functional enabling plans, the first for external engagement, the second, what we'll be talking about today, is professional services, and we also have infrastructure. And I think it's worth bearing in mind that professional services and the professional services transformation is key to the development and delivery of our infrastructure plans. And on the third row, we have the faculties, which are also really key and important in delivering all of the main pillars of our strategy. So moving on now to the next slide, I want to just tell you a little bit about the PS Transformation Programme, which is where we want to focus on the things that will make a difference to how we work and improve collaboration and effectiveness. It's not just about how we engage with each other, but also how we work with our service users across the university so that we make our roles and those we support more efficient and effective over time. We want you all to feel incredibly proud of the quality and effectiveness of the services you deliver. Professional services transformation is about releasing capacity for value added work. It's not about making savings. We'll do this by agreeing our culture and ways of working, introducing better processes, and embedding systems to support more effective decision making. In other words, it's going to bring change and opportunity for all of us. As you can see on the slide in front of you, we've identified three key priorities for the next 12 to 18 months, which are a continuation of work we've talked about before at previous town hall events. The first priority is around developing our people. This is sponsored by Ghazwa Alwani-Star, Chief Operations Officer, with Louise Lester, HR Director, as the Senior Responsible Officer. A lot has been achieved already with the introduction of new ways of working across the university. The next step is around workforce planning to establish a well-developed, resourced workforce development plan and to drive pace of change forward clearly and with defined expectations. The second priority is for process and service improvement, and we'll be hearing about this later. This involves strategic process improvement to develop a clear and prioritised strategic process improvement plan alongside ongoing delivery of incremental improvements in areas of identified pain. This is sponsored by Karen Kroger, Chief Financial Officer, and Marie Gallagher, who will be talking to us later, is the Senior Responsible Officer. And the third priority is an internal governance review, which I'll be leading with Senior Responsible Officer Jane Pallant, Deputy Registrar. We want to support effective and efficient decision making to ensure the governance is right and enables the right business to be presented in the right places. So I'm going to stop talking now and hand over to Sharon Ellis, who's going to explain more about the programme and our ways of working.
Thank you, Jonathan. So hi everybody, if I've not met before, oh hang on, we've got a slight technical glitch. I think we're good to go now. Excellent, thank you. So if I haven't met you before, I'm Sharon Ellis, and as Jonathan explained, I'm taking on this additional role as the Director of Professional Services Transformation. And really what the role is about ensuring we develop and deliver the agreed project well, but also to identify where there are gaps and interdependencies, because these are big programs, and what we absolutely don't want to do is do something in one area that we know is going to adversely impact in another area. But also where we've got gaps, taking the lead, working with others to kind of scope new projects with teams, and ensuring it's all coherent and kind of joined up and delivering benefits that we've identified as we've gone through this process. As important in this is about ensuring that you all understand what is being done, why it is being done, and that there is a clear opportunity for you to feed in and be part of shaping the programme that we're launching today. And when I say you in this context, I mean you as the people that are delivering the services, but also I want the programme to be shared with academic colleagues and students, because I think they're really important in helping us prioritise the work that we're going to do together. So really, what are we trying to do through this particular programme? We've got a number of outcomes that we're looking to drive. Can we go back one slide, please? Just moved on a bit. Great, thank you. So we're looking to drive a professional services culture, which is inclusive, collaborative, and really focused on effective delivery for our staff and our students. I think there's more that we can do in being clear in terms of what our service standards are, and focusing, as we're going to do very heavily today, on how do we improve underlying processes and some of the systems to support the work that we do and deliver to those standards. And you can never communicate too much when you're trying to deliver things that are a change to what we do now. So communication will be really clear, will be really key. We want to be really clear with everybody in terms of what we're doing and help you understand why we're doing. And we also want to really capture the good stuff that's out there and share it, because that's really how people learn, by understanding what's going well, looking how they can do that in their own business areas. Next slide, please. Thank you. So many of you might have been here for more than the 3 years that I've been here, and you will say, well, haven't we done all this before? I think the important thing to say is we're not starting from scratch. There's been great work that was done over 2018 and 2019, which is informing some of the scope of the work that we're doing now. We are really clearly saying in that context that we're going to make sure that we're sharing the good practice that's out there and the things that we've done. And really what I'm saying here is that we have delivered quite a lot of success in the past. Just reflect back on how much better our data is now, the reporting and the dashboards that we're using to inform how we're delivering services. The Student Process Improvement Project, which really looked to improve a number of elements of our student processes. We did a lot during COVID. We just changed a lot in terms of what we did and how we did it. And I think that kind of change is actually leading to some further improvements in how we're working. And we've opened the department that we're in. I'm sitting in Department W, and the way that we're all working here often is quite different. So that's been some excellent work that people have delivered over the last couple of years, and we shouldn't forget that. Next slide, please. We're deliberately creating a sort of time-bound programme for the professional services transformation. We need to give ourselves some time to make those changes, but we do need to have clear kind of break-off points where this is going to be embedded into business as usual working. What's going to be a bit different is in terms of we are looking to make sure that we're clearly scoping the projects and that we're sharing the clear scope of projects with you all. But a lot of this is about making sure that, we're all focused on what it is that we think we're going to need to improve the service that we're delivering to staff and students. In terms of reflecting on what may not have worked quite so well in the past, I think we may not have put in place as much of the infrastructure and institutional resilience as we need to capture and promote what is being done differently. Maybe we didn't put the time aside or the other resources people that we need, that people need to ensure that we're going to deliver change where it is needed. So through this programme, we definitely plan to deploy experts to support on process improvement. We also want to ensure that we're capturing and really presenting back to people the clear scope of work that we're doing and publicising them to the launch of a website that we will follow this event on, and you will have access to, so you can see exactly what we're doing. And I think I talked about communication. We cannot do enough of this. So through that website, we will also look to make sure we're publicising what is different. So as I said before, the programme is around supporting professional services culture that is inclusive, drives collaboration, but also effective delivery, and that we empower you and others to kind of to ensure that you're understanding when things aren't working so well, what resources can be available to you to do that. And I think I would lastly say probably we haven't been quite as honest with ourselves as we might need to be. Change is quite hard. As managers, we need to ensure that there is the time for people to engage in this sort of activity and not just focus on the day job. And we'll hear a bit more of that as we focus on the people work stream over the next kind of 6 weeks or so. And we'll present that back to you at the next event. Next slide, please. So I touched on that in terms of what the future events are going to focus on. We've said it's going to be the people work stream. As part of that, I think we'll also try and have a conversation in terms of how we help people understand what's expected of them. What level of risk are they able to take in their jobs as an organisation? How do we help people feel empowered in their role as well? So I just flash them up on the screen. You'll see this a couple of times through this presentation. We're planning these events probably every 6 weeks or so to make sure that you understand and can, we can play back to you what you fed back to us. The next event we're planning for is on Wednesday, the 11th of May, in terms of developing our people. We've also then got business partnering and hub and spoke model at the next event in June. And we're seeing that as a bit of a taster for the professional services conference, which is later in June, which again is going to have a bit of a focus on professional services transformation. So, this will not be the last you hear of us in this regard. We do want you to get engaged and we'll give you plenty of opportunity to do that. So I'm going to stop talking now. Let's hand over to the meat of the meeting, which is our focus today on process and service improvement. Marie Gallagher is the SRO for this work and is going to take us through this now. Over to you, Marie, please.
That's great. Thank you very much, Jonathan and Sharon, for that overview of professional services transformation, and welcome everybody to the meeting. So for those of you that don't know me, or for staff that may have recently joined Queen Mary, my name is Marie Gallagher and my day job is the Faculty Director of Operations for Humanities and Social Sciences. And as Sharon has just said, I'm the Senior Responsible Officer working on one of the strands, so the key delivery projects for service and process improvement. And we'll also be working very closely with the other two strands of delivery, so developing our people and also internal governance review. And Karen Kroger, Chief Financial Officer, is the project sponsor for this project. So one of the key aim today, with the launch of professional services transformation and the dedicated web space, is to provide clarity on the project's objectives. So how to get involved with the project, what we want as an institution, but also what we need to achieve to enable PS to support the Queen Mary 2030 strategy, which is very ambitious. One of the key points I do want to follow on from Sharon's summary of we've been here before, because that is a rhetoric that we often hear in meetings, particularly for staff that have been at Queen Mary for quite a long time, is there is a significant difference, and which I would like to highlight in terms of this service and process improvement project. That is that we need to actually have service and process improvement embedded in business as usual to incorporate continuous improvement as a sustained activity across all of our services. So this project expects to establish a framework for process and service improvement from September 2022, which does differentiate this type of project in terms of setting up a framework for continuous improvement from previous iterations of service improvement projects. So the key aim of this project is to identify pain points or inefficiencies in our processes, And this is we're hoping to achieve this by engaging with all staff across all of the different directorates, schools, institutes and professional areas from Queen Mary. We also want to enable staff, so all staff, to be able to raise issues and that create that additional workload, but also that don't meet the needs of the end users and also the deliverers of any given process. So we see from this, from the slide you're looking at, that the benefits are to include cash saving and cash flow. That also includes ease of spending money. So I know that's one of our kind of critical pain points. Also looking at improved service levels, not just for the end user, but for those that are actually having to deliver those services and receive those emails from client stakeholders that are confused or unhappy with the services that we're providing. Our capacity for growth through greater efficiency. This will also support Queen Mary's ambition to diversify the types of activities we're undertaking in terms of, for example, degree apprenticeships, extended distance learning, transnational education, but also just to make our staff feel empowered to identify and address those issues. But we'll be doing this within a safe environment of the project by providing the support of leaders in process engineering. Next slide, please. So the scope of the project has to do two strands of work. So we're looking at the quick wins and then development of processes that would require more significant project management, end-to-end business process mapping, automation, and then user acceptance testing. The second strand of work then is the creation of a framework and supporting staff capability to deliver continuous improvement as a core embedded value within Queen Mary. This is a really critical area of support within the project. We often talk about sort of our workloads, how difficult it can be to manage our day-to-day. Things are changing, we've got students coming in, the cycle seems to be never ending. But this is about creating leads within the project that will work closely alongside managers and their teams, and any staff member that wants to be involved with the process of enabling our professional services to support transformation within Queen Mary. In terms of quick wins, we see critical importance and the urgency of a critical mass of small incremental changes. This is a key mechanism that establish how change can be achieved really quickly, but also in a very simple way. So I hope that you'll see from some of the videos later, and when I take you through the processes that we have applied to current projects, how we can actually have positive impact very quickly within processes, working with the team and groups of stakeholders. So you will shortly be watching a video with Z Parker, Alex Chalice, and then Sharon Bond. Now Sharon will be explaining the process that has taken place for later non-payment of suppliers, just as an example of a programme of work that can generate positive outcome for external providers for Queen Mary, but also supporting finance staff within schools and directorates, but also the finance team themselves that are overseeing those services. Next slide, please. So there's three examples of projects that we're currently working on. So the projects that we've identified have been sort of identified through feedback, so noise that has come through from through different mechanisms of communication through Queen Mary. These projects have been selected as pain points in terms of applying these projects to a framework that we think could work for Queen Mary to be able to deliver professional services transformation. So when we think about pain points, it's really important to understand how projects would be selected to be supported by this project. So this would be determined by a number of critical factors. So I'll talk through a couple of them, but the first would be risk to reputation of the institution, as an example. Frequency, scale and volume of the issues that are presented, who is being impacted and how many stakeholders or end users are being impacted. How much effort is then required to be able to produce workarounds to be able to provide that service? And then what will be the benefits realised when undertaking a review of those services? What will happen within the trial, but also a newly engineered process, and then transitioning that from the trial to business as usual. From this, we can also ask ourselves, what if a proposal identified has pain points but doesn't meet the sort of critical criteria in terms of being approved as a priority project? There will also be advice and support available from the Service and Process Improvement team and access to documentation that will support staff for localised projects and process engineering. Next slide, please, Kat. So the project has already started, just from the last slide, from seeing some of the projects that we're going through at the moment. The project will run until September 2022. So this seems like a very short project, but as I said earlier, what we're really trying to do is then transfer the skills and the framework that we've created into business as usual, so that the project will have the flexibility being embedded in our sort of core business as usual to be able to flex and change and be agile in terms of Queen Mary's delivery of services. I'll just talk a little bit about the governance of the project, because I think for those of us that sit on senior committees, we have access to how these projects are governed, and I think it's very useful to know what we need to do as a group to secure resources, funding, etc. So the governance of the Service and Process Improvement project is through the Professional Services Steering Group. This is a small group of membership from the Professional Services Leadership Team. The project is also governed by Queen Mary's Strategy Programme Board. So this is the body that would look at our project plans, but would also consider our requests for resourcing. So this project has been successful in securing resource for internal support to be able to support teams and managers through the different project proposals. And a key principle that we've applied within this project is to have internal resource and not external contracted reviewers of our processes, because we are the best people to know where our bottlenecks are. Our staff and ourselves and our teams will be the key drivers for the success of this project due to our own contribution to the different streams of work, but receiving support from the project to be able to protect business as usual. Tasks that will be undertaken by the project team are facilitation of workshops, process mapping, that is the as is and the to be, which can be very complex in terms of understanding the different touch points across directorates, identifying business requirements, root cause analysis, and also identifying opportunities. Next slide, please. So we're just about to start watching the videos. So I would like to first a massive shout out to Z, Alex and Sharon. It's terribly nerve-wracking to put your head above the parapet and agree to be filmed and put onto a presentation in front of it looks like 402 attendees at the moment. So I just want to say thank you very much to the staff that have agreed to do that. One of the key strap lines that I've noticed from the videos, and I think also from the feedback we've received from stakeholders, from individuals, from heads of school, in terms of feedback, is something that Sharon actually really captures in her video. So you'll pick this up when you watch it, and it's that to remove the bottlenecks from my world. And I think that really resonates in terms of what we all want from service and process improvement. So I think we're going to move on to the first video. So if we can play the first video, if you can just adjust your volume as the video may be a little bit quiet.
I'm Alex Chalice. I'm Business Analyst at Research Enterprise and Partnerships.
So how did this come about? This project came about largely from kind of a grassroots piece of work. So we in the doctoral college knew that it was something the PhD students were asking for, to be paid monthly, and because Alex had capacity, was able to help in the team in terms of scoping it and working out what we needed to do. We don't currently pay PhD students monthly because the amount of resource involved in collating the payment list is pretty substantial. So because we don't have a number of systems and processes to support that being done in an automatic or faster fashion, we started by scoping the project to work out where the issues were and what the pinch points were. And one of the big issues that's come through as well is that the data that we're collecting is not currently reportable, because the way that it's held for student payments, it's quite difficult to report on that in a centralised fashion. So that's the other thing, we're kind of trying to get to a point of this will be something that we can have on Power BI or something similar to actually say this is how many students we have, this is where they're funded from, this is the data we know about them, in terms of kind of understanding funding sources.
So the data is currently being held in kind of multiple systems. So it's been held in SITs, but then it's being held in local records as well. So the reason why the process is taking so long, why it needs to change, is that it's essentially there is a data matching exercise in terms of when information comes in, it's not being registered within SITs. It's being logged and recorded within local systems.
Key piece of student feedback in the postgraduate research experience survey is that students would like to move towards monthly payments. So if we can facilitate that, then we are supporting our students. If we see our postgraduate research students, so our PhD students, as the kind of workforce of a research institution, then anything we can do to support that workforce is beneficial.
Benefits for staff involved would be that they would be able to report better data, better validated data from the system, in the sense that they would be able to use it for reporting purposes, and they would then be able to use that to aid further future decision making for future planning activities.
The other benefit for staff would lie in the time spent processing payments for PGRs, so it would actually streamline that process and make it slightly more automated, less open to human error, and hopefully slightly less painful.
With the options and recommendations that we've come up with, they are kind of sequential in the sense that in order to do say option B or option C, you need to do option A, but there is kind of there is no costs involved, for example, to do option A because it needs to be done. So option A, for the sake of this, is uplifting the data that's currently within the system with a view of keeping the process as it is, but it means you then have better quality data so you can potentially report on it, and you can also then use that to then drive any potential data or output that you're then going to send to other teams to then complete the process.
So we're now coming up to a barrier where there are things that we can do from the recommendations that we can just kind of make time in our own working processes, but there are developments and things that we need kind of wider support, and we need the institution to slightly move away from the silos that it's happy working in, to work more kind of cross-cutting and cross-collaboratively, to support developments that we need to happen, process changes that we need to happen, and to actually get everything kind of going in the right direction. And it's sort of self-fulfilling as well. If you have happy staff, they support happy students who support happy staff. So it's that kind of circle of improvement will hopefully bring together a way of working that's actually kind of beneficial for the institution.
So we can see from that video, obviously Z and Alex are going through a process, but I think there's a couple of things that we really need to pick out of there, which actually resonate with, I think, almost every request that we've had so far in terms of themes that have come out of the need for service and process improvement. And this is the automated streamlined processes less open to human error. And I think we need to sort of move on from that, as well as actually not having to have manual tasks in there that take away from activities that are better placed to support our staff and our students. The other thing I really would like to pull out of that is the grassroots project, so that first bullet point. One of the things about this strand of the project is that it will be in response to the staff within the institution. So this is not being dictated through a central, I suppose, team that actually are quite removed from the cold face of providing services to staff and students, which I think again is one of the sort of fundamental differences within this project. Kat, if we can go on to the next video, please.
And my name is Sharon Bond, and I am the Accounts Payable Manager for Queen Mary. I have a team of 9 individuals. I've been in the organisation since March 2017, and we are responsible for looking after all payments to suppliers as well as students. We use a system called Aggresso, which is a system widely used in the university world. We operate an ERP process where we actually purchase to pay all our suppliers. So we work quite closely with procurement, who are the approvers for the purchase orders in the process. And we physically pick up the invoicing side and process that and pay. Currently, we use a system, but we support it with paper, since a lot of it is manual. We do a lot of spreadsheets work. For example, our stipend payments, we have a spreadsheet that we have to reconcile. These are all things that could probably be done in the system. Started looking at the process for the bank confirmation that we currently were using, and then looked at the way we could improve that, and marking out all the roadblocks and the roadblocks in that process, which delays the results of the process, in that we get in the confirmation so we can pay the supplier on time within the 30-day window. We identified a few things. I'd say we didn't have a limit on the amount of attempts that we would make to a supplier to confirm their bank details. We just continued to call them until we got that information, and we didn't utilise our banking system. So as a result of that, the output that we came up with is limited the amount of attempts that we made on the phone to the supplier, and also utilising the banking system to validate UK suppliers' bank accounts for those who are on the system. It's a process called COP. None of this is new stuff. It's all stuff we've just never used, and we've not adopted that principle because we were caught up on the process being a verbal confirmation. That extra step of verbally confirming was, I would say, necessary to a point because of the exposure that universities have as far as full payments, but there was a simple alternative which was already embedded in our system. Suppliers are happier because they're getting paid on time, within the 30-day window, and in fact sometimes before that time, because the bank details has not been held up. I can see more proactive working for my team person, the person in my team who's actually responsible for this new role. So she's got more time to do other bits and pieces, as well as student setups and such like. And I feel happier because I'm all about, as a AP manager, paying bills. I think this is a great addition to Queen Mary, because we have to start looking at ways of refining things and centralising in the sense that we can operate in a more automated way, so people have more time to do value-added stuff rather than having more people do the same work that the system can do. It doesn't make any sense, and the efficiencies and the accuracy suffers as a result of that. So I would say bring it on. I'm all for it.
And we've noticed from some of the feedback that the video might have been quite quiet. So when the recording is published, there will be subtitles available as well, just in case on some of your laptops the audio is not great quality. So just to pull out a couple of themes from that video, because I'm very conscious of time, I think it's really pertinent and of the utmost importance that we're hearing from the service provider themselves that actually they wanted to integrate themselves into the service and process improvement project. That commitment to change is really going to be the recipe for success for Queen Mary. A busy team in finance looking after business as usual. The support we've been able to provide, and that's been through Sally Sergey, our senior project lead, has been fundamental in getting to a stage where the processes have been re-engineered. And the next stage for that project is actually looking at automation and potential inquiry management solutions. Next slide, please. So what's next for process and service improvement? Well, you're here today at the sort of online launch, and the web pages have also been launched. As Sharon and Jonathan have both said, we will be transparent in terms of the projects that we're running, but also in terms of accessibility to be able to participate and also be able to provide potential projects for us to be able to work on. We will be providing a framework for you to, we will be providing a framework to assess and prioritise those, as I've mentioned earlier. And early next week, we will send a cascade through PSLT. So how you actually identify projects for consideration is a very short pro forma form. We'll be sending that to a cascade through PSLT. So if you have any ideas, or if you've been listening to them, you think, you know what, I've got a really good project. I've heard sort of my peers in other schools and other parts of professional services that would like some changes. Please do get in touch with us through your line manager and the pro forma. We're really happy to see as many projects come through as possible. We will be developing a plan for continuous improvement to be an embedded activity, and we have started the process of identifying some of those quick win projects. In terms of providing a proof of concept for major project investment, this would be in relation to, for example, large-scale projects such as inquiry management solutions. Next slide, please. And lastly, I'm just going to finish up on this slide. First of all, to say thank you very much for listening to myself, Sharon and Jonathan today, and also for taking the time to listen to our colleagues that produced the videos. These are some of the themes that have come through. You can see that actually there are themes coming out, but the two ones I do want to highlight is inquiry management solutions and student engagement management, both of which would be large technology projects. To give a practical example of how service and process improvement can support those types of projects is through working with schools to develop in a manual way what a to-be process would look like in terms of capturing student data that we captured through our emails. So I'll finish off on that note to give time for as many question Q&A as possible. And just to finish off, and thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you very much, Marie and Sharon, for your presentations, and also Alex and Sharon for your videos, which, as Marie just said, we will be posting on the website so that you can listen to them later on in case the sound didn't come through very well just now. So thank you to those of you who have already started posting some questions. You do that in the Q&A box. It doesn't publish automatically to everybody, but it comes to us and I'll be reading the questions out as we go. And to begin with, I've got a question for Marie. And the question here is, how will the programme that you've just described avoid introducing new processes that are just as clunky as the ones we've got already at the moment?
That's a really good question. I think it's the most common question we've had in terms of the teams we're working with at the moment. I think as an institution, we're quite risk adverse in terms of our processes, and actually we do need to look at risk tolerance levels in terms of our processes. That's one of the key themes that we see coming out. In particular, that would have related to some of the finance projects that we're working through, but also working across directorates. So I think those cross-functional processes, and we often create a little bit of bureaucracy to enable ourselves to pass on a piece of work to the next team. And I do think inquiry management will ultimately be a solution to streamline those processes. But also from for the person that has directed the question at us, we would be very keen for you to become involved in the project, because from your question, you probably already have identified that clunkiness. And that's exactly the type of person that we want to come into these projects, tell us it's clunky, we will do the process review, and ultimately what we want to be able to do is remove that clunkiness and improve the service for the deliverers and for the stakeholders.
Thanks, Marie. We've had a few questions about whether the slides and a recording of this event will be made available afterwards. Yes, absolutely. So we'll be posting those so that you can return, and also so that people who couldn't join right now can watch the material themselves. Also, a couple of questions have come through around communication in relation to some detailed projects. So a question about how the IR35 quick wins will be communicated, and also a question about what's happening with the need to replace iGrasp. So we'll circulate some information about that after the event, probably on the website, so that you can all go and see that there. This next question is for you, Sharon. Will the process review workshops that took place before the lockdown be followed up? I think this might relate to some of the SPIP workshops and potentially those relating to staff recruitment processes. So over to you, Sharon.
Thanks for the question. So in essence, absolutely yes. I mean, one of the key things the programme is aiming to do in meeting with all of the kind of service leads and deliverers is understand all of the process improvement work or process analysis work that they've done. We want to capture it all, because a key part of what the programme needs to do is then prioritise against all of the things that we could do and start to develop the roadmap on how we will go about approving things. So we don't want to miss anything that's been done in the past. If there are specific examples that you have, if you could get in touch with us via the website, put something in the chat to make sure we absolutely can kind of answer the question, then we will. But that's a clear commitment from us. We want to capture all of the stuff that's been done, not waste it, but we will want to prioritise what we then take forward.
Thanks very much, Sharon. Back to you, Marie, for this next one. So how can professional services colleagues who are also users of services offered by different parts of professional services, how can they feed into those service improvements, given that they're key users and will probably have ideas?
So in terms of the project, there will be information about the current projects that we have ongoing, but also subsequent projects that go through sort of a selection process and are approved to be supported by the service and process improvement strand of work. We will be doing a call for staff that are interested in those projects. That could be in terms of quick wins, doing quick user acceptance testing for proposed changes, or it could be joining a sort of more formal project team. It will be an open access, so all staff will have access to the projects that we're running. I think it's a really pertinent question, because we often, I suppose, within the central leadership team are not completely aware of actually who the stakeholders are within any given service. And actually we would be relying on yourselves as the Queen Mary community to put yourselves forward as sort of the key deliverers or key stakeholders within any of those processes. I think it's also given that most of our processes overlap across different directorates. So actually we'd like to see sort of a broad selection of staff at a broad range of grades participating in all of the projects. Everything that we will communicate will be available on the website, and you'll also start to see far more communications coming from us from a dedicated email account as well. So I suppose it's just you keep your eyes open for the emails coming out, and also line managers will be cascading any information and setting reminders for calls for project support and for project participation.
Thanks very much, Marie. Sharon, we've had a really interesting question about the framing of academic colleagues as service users or customers, and you know what that might mean for how we're perceived as professionals, and whether that's a sort of fair representation of the sort of breadth of activities that professional services staff engage in. I don't know whether you've got any comments on that.
Yeah, thanks, and that's a really good question, because we do deliver so many things across the schools. I think there's a sort of perception and reality. I think the reality of any programme like this is if actually we all don't work together to identify the issues, to look at what the solutions may be, and then take a key part in implementing them and gathering feedback from each other, then we probably will all fail in many respects. So characterising PS as service deliverers, I think, is one focus for this particular project. I think it is an area that we do need to focus on, because I think there's often some perception of poor performance in some areas where actually it may not be poor performance. We may just not have spent the time together, be it the centre, be it at schools with academics or students, to understand what it takes to deliver a good service. We may be in a situation where we're all fooling ourselves, that we're going to deliver something in a really short time frame, which we've never got the chance to do. So I think it's as our programme, it's not intended to diminish any person's role. What it's aiming to do is focus in on the key things that we think will make a difference in terms of how we can deliver Strategy 2030 and improve that kind of effectiveness and that collaboration to kind of deliver the ambitions that we've got together. But I think it's a really good question. And I think, if I'm really honest, I think the framing of how we might present this will kind of change a bit in certain audiences. You know, the conversation I would go in and have with a set of academic colleagues around this is, we've heard some various things about pain points. Here's the things that we're doing about it. But actually, here's some things that we need support from you to enable us to achieve. So I think, you know, it's a good question. That's how I see things. I think we can definitely have more conversations about this, but we're trying to focus on a key element of things where I think we can turn the dial, make a difference, create better processes and systems for ourselves, and free up some time for those more value-added activities, which I think should hopefully give everybody in their roles more satisfaction, more scope to develop, which is also something that we're really keen to do.
Thank you, Sharon. I think that's a really good answer to an important question, and we'll have to continue asking ourselves that as we go along. So a lot of questions have come in about really asking, are we going to invest in IT systems, and what's the relationship between this work and groups such as FAST, that's the Forum for the Advancement of Student Services, I hope I've got that right, which is using an agile approach to quite incremental improvements to a whole range of student services. I'll respond to this one myself, I think, because certainly when we look at both the financial plans for the university and the infrastructure plans, you know, there is scope there for investment in our IT to support activities which are delivered by the professional services. Obviously, there is always a balance to be struck between investment in core PS services to support education, and systems to support research. What I would say, though, and I've certainly seen this very much as chair of the FAST group, it's absolutely key to get our processes right in the first place. And a lot of the backlog and issues that we face are actually to do with that, and it's very easy to underestimate the time that is needed to really break down what it is that we need to do, and to engage with each other, make sure that we have an agreed set of objectives so that we can then go ahead and invest. So I think the answer to this is yes, there is the scope. We've been working very hard across the university to make sure that there is the scope for investment, but the case always needs to be made for investment. And also that case depends very much on having good processes in place. And it's great to see a lot of the business cases coming forward that already have that in place. So it's a sign of good things to come. The next question, so a couple of questions really around how we will resource this activity, and these are coming your way, Sharon, in terms of the professional services transformation. So some questions about, you know, will we be bringing in external consultants to help us with this? Some questions about how people release their time to get involved. And also, I think a question about, if this doesn't work, will we end up outsourcing or something like that?
Thanks, Jonathan. So I think there's three in one there. In terms of taking how do people kind of free up their time to do this? I think there's two things to say there. One, and Marie said this, we are the best people to understand where those kind of bottlenecks and those blockers are. And I think the conversation we'll be having with managers and leaders across the institution is we need to ensure that we are freeing up people's time, helping them look, lift their head above the horizon and making that an active part of people's work objectives to do that. And we'll be having more of that conversation as part of the developing our people work stream as well. So, there'll be more to come in this context, but I think we all need to recognise as kind of managers, leaders and people delivering in this organisation, taking the opportunity and being supported to move some of those bottlenecks and blockers is a key part of what we're meant to do as a good and strong professional service. Turning to, will we be bringing in external consultants? I think we will be very open to bringing in people to support our people to do the work that needs to be done. Marie already referred to the fact that we are bringing in some sort of expertise and resource that we will deploy with our people to kind of support them in making the change activities. And I think this is a definite theme coming through our particular programme, is that we will bring people in, but in parallel to supporting our own people gain new skills and experience. So we embed those skills going forwards and kind of take a bit more control ourselves in terms of how we go about improving things. So I think, there's not a blank check. There's not a kind of blank desire that we want to bring in endless consultants. I was talking to a colleague the other day, and I said, oh, don't worry, we're all not going to be McKinsey'd. So if people know McKinsey as the set of management consultants, I've been McKinsey'd more times in my life than I really care to mention, and it usually ended up with me being moved into a different department, because that's always the outcome. That is not the intention of this programme. The intention of the programme is to work together to free up the time, to create clear scopes of work, to resource it from within, but to support that resource with expertise where it is needed. And sorry, John, I forgot the last question. If you could remind me of that, please.
I think actually you've covered it, haven't you? Because one was just different aspects of the same one. So I think you've covered it really well.
Perfect.
So thanks again, Sharon. Marie, I've got a question for you. In fact, quite a few people who are really keen to get involved, and they'd like some practical advice from you about how they should go about that. So should they contact you directly? Do they need to talk to their line manager first? These sorts of things. So practically, how do people show they're willing to get involved, and how do they also log what they want to do?
Thanks, Jonathan. To be completely clear about exactly what's going to happen, we will have a cascade sent out through PSLT next week. So if you work in central professional services, it'll be through your director or line manager. And for schools and institutes in the 3 academic units, it'll be through line managers. So what I would suggest you do is contact your line manager, talk through the ideas that you have about process improvement, and they will be able to give you access to the pro forma form, and you'll also be given information where to send that form into. The form is very, very easy to fill out. It's sort of one side of a page. It's very clear in terms of the information that's required, so it can actually just be a few lines to describe a process. And then you just submit it as per the direction, and that's all you need to do. In terms of wanting to get involved, again, we'll make sure the website is updated. So if it's kind of a general call, I'm available for projects. I really want to develop myself in terms of what process engineering is as a concept. We'll have that available on the website, and we'll also send a communication after this event to cover those questions, to make sure that we've responded to everybody, so that we've got clear steps that you can take to participate. I think it's fantastic that so many people do want to join the project, so we're very excited about that.
Thank you, Marie. We're nearly out of time, so what I'm going to do before handing back to Sharon to complete this process is just to thank everybody for the questions that have been asked. I think we've got through most of them. I'm going to answer a couple of questions quickly in a moment, but any that we've not managed to get to, we will circulate a summary of the questions and our answers so that you've got all of that. One of the questions is around the strategy, and have we revisited the strategy in light of the experience of the pandemic? And yes, absolutely we have. So the senior executive team have regular away days where we discuss this sort of thing. So while we have, I think, confirmed that the strategy deals with the right things, certainly the phasing of the activities, the order in which we do things has changed as a result of the pandemic. And we've also learned about how we implement change. Certainly in terms of the education strand, there's been a very important set of learning there, but also the new ways of working, which has affected many of us in professional services. There's also a question about the business partnering work stream and what that involves, and we have a slide in front of us right now actually talking about the event on the 22nd of June, but I'm sure you'll be able to find some information before that on the website. So with that, and with thanking everybody again, I'll hand back briefly to Sharon to close the event.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Look, it's been great. We've had well over 300 attendees that have been here throughout the meeting. I think that's testimony to how interested people are in terms of getting involved, learning more, and sort of helping us deliver the programme. We had over 400 people attending for the most part of it, so this has been excellent. Thank you very much for your time and attending. We did just want to kind of get dates in your diaries now, and the detail up on the screen is already giving you that. We are focusing on our developing our people work strand at an event on the 11th of May. I already know that'll be a fantastic event, just in time to G us all up for our ref results, which will be coming out just 2 days later as well, so that I'm sure will be great news across the institution in that regard. We are then also wanting to run another event on the 22nd of June, as Jonathan said, around business partnering and hub and spoke, which is about structure and how we're organised, and a tech teaser in relation to a feature on professional services transformation as part of the PS conference, which are happening on the 29th and 30th of June. So I'm really pleased that you're able to join us. I hope you find that useful. Do keep the questions coming. Do take the time to look at our website and information, and do help us shape this programme, because actually it is our programme and it is here to help us all work in a way that's going to help us all deliver the strategy 2030. So thank you very much for attending. Appreciate your input, and now you know exactly who we are and what we're doing. Please don't hesitate in kind of stopping us as you see us wandering around, and have a chat. Have a chat. Invite us to events that you think are going to be relevant to you. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye.